I think it's fair to say that it's truly an honor to welcome Mr. Carlos Cascos, the 110th Secretary of State of Texas. Okay, it's really good. Okay? We are a small, new professional organization. So for us, it's really an honor. Okay. I'm not going to go and read his full bio because I've never done it since we began this professional organization. I'm not going to start, especially because his bio is very long. I'm just going to say this. I think Mr. Cascos does, in some way, embody, I would say, America, in the sense that he was born in Mexico, he crossed the border legally.
And you know that now?
You tell me! I crossed the border legally as well, by the way. And I am a US citizen, a proud one, and I will keep my accent, mind you. There is something else Mr. Cascos did, which I think is worth noting. Yes. Okay. UT. Okay? Book them all. Okay? I've never been there. But I did two things. The first lady, the lady who actually thought I might know a few things in energy economics, who gave me this, is actually the director of the Center of Energy Economics at UT. Okay? Before that, there were a lot of people who thought I didn't know anything. The second thing is I will add is that basically it's important to, I would say, it's important to note that Mr. Cascos is not your typical, let's say, politician. Okay? In the sense that he has had a career, okay? And he understands what business is. Okay? And I think this is extremely important, especially for us who are trying to do some stuff which are linked to economics and finance as far as exploration and production is concerned for oil and gas. So without further ado, and I spoke too long as usual, please welcome Mr. Secretary.
Great, it does work. Well, thank you very much for the kind and short introduction. I can tell you that my swim was a lot shorter than yours. We could actually walk across our river. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I've been in Houston pretty much all day today. And what I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, very, very little. I'll tell you about the office, tell you what we're doing, and what a great thrill it is for me to be here in Houston again. I think I've spent more time in Houston than I've spent in my own home in Brownsville since I became secretary. I was here last weekend for a couple of events, and I got here today. I spoke at a luncheon, and then I went on to speak at a class at U of H downtown. Then I went to go do a Univision interview. Now I'm here today, and I finally get my first beer. Thank you. And then I have to catch a flight to El Paso in a couple of hours. So it's been really, really busy. No, I'm not campaigning for anything other than getting the word out, educating, and informing voters about voting. Changes in the photo ID law for one, and what those changes are. But then talk about, and I'll talk about that a little bit towards the end, because this is not really a Vote Texas event. Okay, I want to speak a little bit more about what we've been doing at the SOS office. But let me start off by saying Texas is a great state. Yep. And it's a big state. Yep. And I have traveled, last year I did 37 cities, 94 speeches in about 9 months. Right now, we're on a pace to exceed that. So more, I mean, as of June 30th, I think I've already been to 27 cities and given 41 speeches. That was as of June. So we're gonna probably pass what we did in 2015. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because normally secretaries in the past, everybody has their own idea of what a secretary is going to do, and some like to travel overseas and on trade missions, but I wanted to get to know Texas. I wanted to get to know what Texas was all about and really experience the diversity that Texas has and is. And it is a great state, but it's also a very large state with a lot of different dynamics, a lot of different political persuasions, and I've got to walk us a very fine line because I am nonpartisan. A little bit about me, let me go back. I was born in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico, which is right across the border from Brownsville, Texas. My dad was from Mexico City, my mom was from San Fernando. My first language was Spanish. And el español, y todavía lo hablo más o menos bien. Cuando quiero practicar, veo las novelas. So I've had the opportunity. I do watch novelas, by the way. When I came to Texas, I've lived all my life in Brownsville, except for my time that I went to UT Austin for my graduate, for my college degree. Then I went back to Brownsville and I started, working for a CPA firm. I am a CPA. Now I'm a partner in a firm, a pretty good sized firm in Brownsville, Waco, Temple, Hillsboro, Albuquerque, New Mexico. I don't know how many partners I've got. When I started with them, there was like 5, now there may be 10. But I'm the one that basically used to run the South Texas office out of Brownsville. So we would, if you can picture in your mind, we would start off like in Valverde County, which is up the border, go all the way to San Antonio, go all the way to San Patricio County, then down. That was my firm's territory, so to speak. But anyway, aside from that, I came over to Brownsville. I'm a product of Brownsville's public schools. My first language was Spanish, so when I went to school as a kindergarten, first grade, I did not speak English. And this was before, though most people here are not old enough to remember this, but I remember, you could not speak Spanish on a public school campus. If you did, 2 things happened to you. Yes, you got paddled or you got detention. I don't like staying after school. So needless to say, I took what was behind curtain number 2, which was the paddling. And for the longest time, I had the reddest and sorest button down. Because I would always get spanked because I did not speak English. So little by little, I started transitioning and learning English. To the day that my mom died, about 2.5 years ago, she never learned or wanted to learn to speak English. But I have a strange suspicion that she understood it, because every time I said a bad word in English, she knew what it was, and she would get the chancla out, She would get the chancla. The chancla is what Mexican moms used to hit their kids with. It's like a loafer, like a, what do they call it? It's a chancla. It was a loafer. It was out of that, or then when my dad got home, it was the belt. I mean, so I grew up in a household of very, very strict Mexican disciplinarians. And they instilled from the very beginning the importance of education. And I got to learn that as I grew up. I never appreciated it until much later in life when I believed and I speak about education is a great equalizer. It equalizes everyone, regardless of your background, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your financial resources or lack thereof. It's a tremendous equalizer. So they instilled in going to school. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the way Mexican women pray. I mean, they light candles. HEB's got them. HEB's got religious candles, and so this was before there was an HEB around. But every time I was going to have a test, my mom would light a candle, and it worked. And when I was about to graduate from UT, she kind of first it was high school, and she lit like a whole room full of candles, and that worked. I graduated like I don't know, 405th out of 410 in my class. And then when I went off to school at UT, and I was going to graduate from UT, she bypassed the candles, and she did little bonfires in the backyard. with little religious symbols around, you know, and thank God I graduated from UT, and so I think the point is that anybody that is dedicated and commits to being educated and taking care of family and working hard, you're going to get somewhere in life. I was very fortunate. Back when I was about a young 30-year-old, 32-year-old, I decided to get into politics. I decided to run for a county commission spot against an incumbent. And many of y'all are going to think the same way. You hate being told you can't do this. Because it gives you more animo, it gives you more energy to want to do it. You know what, you don't think I can do it? We're going to do it, bless you. And so, I decided to run in 1990 for county commissioner against an incumbent. You know, I ran as a Democrat. And in the Valley, you're born two things. You're born a Catholic and you're born a Democrat. Well, I wasn't a very good Catholic, and it turns out I wasn't a very good Democrat, but nonetheless, I ran for county commissioner against an incumbent and won. And then I ran the second time and won. Third time I won. Then I was out for 4 years. And then I decided to run for county judge in Cameron County as a Republican in 2006. Again, Catholic and Democrat in the Valley. So I decided to run as a Republican, and every time I would run, they would say, no, you can't do it, you can't win, et cetera, et cetera. So we ended up winning in 2006, got reelected in 2010, got reelected in 2014. As a Republican.
Why did you run as a Republican?
Why did I run as a Republican?
You get elected.
Because, as a matter of fact, I was only the second Republican in 100 years in Cameron County. I ran as a Republican simply because I got tired. I didn't like where the party was going. It was just not me anymore. And if you go back to the political days of the 80s, a lot of the Democrat Party was different back in the 70s, 80s. It's changed a lot, in my opinion. And I'm nonpartisan, but I can tell you politically, back in the 80s, you had a lot of Republicans today that were Democrats then. I can name, you know, Ronald Reagan, you know, Rick Perry, you know, Phil Graham. You go on John Connolly. You go off and the high-profile people that were Democrats, and they saw what was happening. And so anyway, so I decided to run as a Republican against the incumbent. He was a three-term incumbent. And again, you know, they spent, I don't know, $500,000 on that race. I spent about $100, and he got elected by 10 points. I mean, it was really something. It was really kind of funny because on election night, I had one reporter with the news media at my little party. I had a little restaurant close to my house. All the other media was at my opponent's deal. So when the numbers started coming in, he saw that I won. All the reporters that were in Port Isabel, about 25, 30 miles, started scurrying back to interview me. But that wasn't the point. The point is that I ran on a platform of fiscal conservative. I still am. But the funny thing is, when I was a Democrat, Democrats would tell me that I wasn't Democrat enough. Oh, it gets better. And then when I started running as a Republican and winning, Republicans would tell me, you're not Republican enough. And I said, you know, I finally told him, so look, I don't want to be anything enough. I want to be me. I want to be me. I want to do my thing. I want to do what I think I need to do. And it worked. And so now we fast forward 2014. I got reelected again by a huge margin against a machine. And then I get a call about 3 days later from Governor Abbott's, one of his staff people, said, hey, the governor wants to appoint you to something. We can't tell you what it is. Will you take it? I said, well, I don't know what it is. It could have been state dog catcher for all I know. And so I said, I don't know. Let me give it some thought. And so I started thinking, and whatever. And then about a few days later, he says, he wants to offer you the Secretary of State's position. Will you take it? So let me think about this. I just ran a tough race. I got elected, and my biggest fear was disappointing the people that had supported me. That was my biggest deal. A lot of people, and to give you an idea of how small the Republican Party is in Cameron County, and you're from most residents, we would have meetings at Denny's, one booth. There was room for a person there. That's how small the Republican Party was, and it sort of kind of still is. That's just the nature of it, you know. I think you come in this part of the country and you go to, you go to Pearland, or you may go to Kingwood, and Kingwood where it's predominantly Republican, you know. Well, every part of the country has its phases. But I was able to get along, and do things right. When I got there, Cameron County was in a deficit position. They had less than 20 days worth of operations, fund balance, surplus, retained earnings. When I left, we had 90 days, and we had to make some tough choices, like you do in business every day. If you're not making it, what do? You cut costs, you cut expenses, or you don't give yourself a bonus, or you don't give your employees salaries increases. So that's what we had to do for a number of years. So needless to say, I was not very popular, with the 1,700 employees that the county employed, but we made 400,000 people a little bit happier because their taxes stayed dormant. We did not raise taxes. The average tax rate during my administration was less than half a penny per year. And that was just because of increased costs that we were having. Government is not immune to healthcare, insurance costs, oil and gas, or repairs. We're not immune to that, so we had to adjust that. So now as secretary, moving forward, and I remember sitting with the governor, it was really quick. I said, okay, I'll do it. And he says, what I want you to do is I want you to focus on a couple of things for right now. I want you to focus on Mexico, the relationship that Texas has with Mexico, and just sell Texas. Selling Texas is really so easy. It is easy to sell Texas. It's so easy to sell Texas. So I started learning and reading and Googling and learning everything I could about Texas, because I did not know a whole lot. You asked me about Cameron County, I could answer that question. But talk about anything else outside of that, it's like most of us. We're familiar with our little environment, with our little bailiwicks where we do work and raise our families every single day, But if I were to ask you something, a question about what is this one's an easy one, you'll figure it out right away. What is the official Texas tie?
Texas what?
Bolo.
The official Texas tie is the bolo. And that's all I wear. I wear bolos all the time. It's easy because it's easier to put on, and I don't get it dirty when I lean over with the food. It's pretty cool. Nor the beer. So I started asking rhetorical questions when every audience that I would hit, I would ask questions about Texas. Tell me what the official large mammal is.
Official what?
The official Texas large mammal. The longhorn. The longhorn is the official big mammal. The official little mammal is the armadillo. Yeah. So I started asking these questions of people, and they're like wondering, And so I started asking a lot of rhetorical questions of my audiences, and I found out one thing: how little Texans really know about Texas. How many square miles in Texas? 279,000 square miles. How many, I started asking questions that people should know that live on the border. How many miles between Brownsville and El Paso?
A lot.
1,254 miles, 28 points of entry. And people don't realize that 63% of the border between the United States and Mexico is in Texas. We have the largest border. So we started talking to people, and they started becoming, we did not know that. Another one that I've had to kind of educate people on is the importance that Mexico holds to Texas. And it's not because I'm in love with Mexico, I'm in love with this. No. It's strictly business. It's business. When we have more than a third of total trade that Texas does with everybody in the world, 1/3 is with Mexico. Like it or not, doesn't matter, it is what it is. There's 500,000 jobs that are created in Texas because of direct trade with Mexico. 500,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs. Many of those jobs are in this community. Many of these jobs. In the nation, there's almost 6 million jobs that are created nationwide because of direct trade with Mexico. So when people start talking about Mexico and maybe potentially isolationism and things like that, I look, whoa, wait a minute. This is going to impact our community larger than anybody else. If something should happen, anything to me that affects trade is affecting money. It's affecting the entrepreneurs that's who generates these jobs. Just in 2014, I think there's like 459,000 jobs that have been created in Texas. When I say created in Texas, don't infer that that means that the state of Texas as a governmental entity created those jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. It's business, entrepreneurs, big business, little business. Doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. It's business that creates jobs. So the question is to me, I was in Canada about a month and a half or so ago, and I was talking to startup companies, publicly traded, privately owned. And I started talking to an entrepreneur who had a publicly traded company who had offices in Toronto, California, and Maryland. And so we're sitting back and forth, and I said, have you ever thought about, I'm trying to bring businesses. Have you ever thought about coming to Texas? Well, you know, thought about it. All of a sudden, I felt like the little Geico in the commercial. And I said, you know, if you move to Texas, you're going to save 13% more. By moving to Texas. Because there's no personal income tax. I mean, that's simple. California's got personal income tax. Texas is a right-to-work state. You don't want to join a union, you don't have to join a union. Albeit there are unions, you got law enforcement unions, you got teachers unions, and that's fine. But you do not have to join a union in order to be employed. Those are two big things that people are looking for. The third thing that they're looking for, basically, is the integrity of local government. They're looking at the integrity of local government. I get asked all the time. So now, when I'm promoting and I'm talking about Texas, and you know, I get communities ask me all the time, what do we need to do as a community in order to be attractive to entrepreneurs, to people wanting to relocate to our community? And so, well, they're looking at a lot of things. From a statewide perspective, they're looking at the fact that we don't have a personal income tax, and the corporate tax that we have is, you know, via franchise tax. But we don't have personal income taxes. We're a right-to-work state. We have limited regulations. You know, Texas is a body. But Texas is a big state. So if they want to move into a specific community, what is it that they're looking for? I was the county judge when SpaceX went into Gallatin County. And we were competing with other parts of the nation that had a better financial package than we did. But they moved there for a reason, and I'll get to that in a minute. But what these companies are looking for are several things. One, they're looking at infrastructure. You know, how good is your infrastructure? Go out here in your highways at 4 o'clock and be stuck in traffic. They're looking at infrastructure. They're looking at the quality of education. You know, what kind of school district do you have? What kind of school district is here? Is it exemplary? Is it being monitored by TDA? Is it getting good grades, basically? They're looking at the quality of health care. We're very fortunate to live in this community because we have probably the best health care facilities in the world. So this is an easy one. But you have other communities that may not be as fortunate. That somebody may have to drive 40 or 50 miles to get to a qualified hospital or doctors. So they're looking at that. They're looking at the overall property tax structure. And they want to know, am I going to be paying $3 per $100 valuation or $12 per $100 valuation? What is it that I'm going to pay? I'm going to invest $60 million in a project. Where are my property taxes going to be? That's a legitimate question. Integrity of local government is a big deal. But most people that are in this area, they don't think, well, no one's going to look at that. They do look at that. They look at the integrity of local government. They want to make sure that if they're going to come into a community, that they're going to be dealing with serious people, with people that are stable government. You know, and so when I speak to school board members or city council members, look, everybody, in today's media, social media, people tweet out what I'm saying right now being tweeted out somewhere. You're being videotaped, recorded. That is out of the public domain within 30 minutes or less. So I tell people, look, be careful when you conduct your meetings. You know, be respectful of everyone. You know, don't have a dog and pony show. Don't be offensive to your fellow councilmen or women or board members. Be respectful. Do whatever you want to do behind closed doors. You want to call somebody something, but don't do it out where it's on the public domain. One of the reasons SpaceX relocated to Brownsville, Texas? And that's where I got this thing about integrity of local government. What they said, we like the way you ran a meeting.
something that's simple. We like the way you ran a meeting. You let everyone speak, never interrupted during public comment, even though they were allocated 3 minutes. I never had any problem somebody going over very politely after they've been on for 4 minutes, and you got a minute left. After they've been another 2 minutes, you got 1 more minute. Gave them that respect. They liked the way our commissioners. Keep in mind, the only Republican, I had 4 Democrat commissioners and the only Republican, but we got along because we thought for the better good. For the better good and the greater good of our community. And that's really what it's all about. So when people ask me, this is what I think you need to be doing. Now, Texas has grown so quickly and rapidly. We've gone, as my staff said, we've gone from a sprint to a jog because of the oil. But you know, it's a hiccup. It's a hiccup. I believe that we're going to bounce back stronger than we ever have before. It's going to come back. It's going to come back. You know, many of y'all are so young to remember the 80s when same thing happened and it was disastrous and it was horrible and hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs, some permanent. But Texas was different then. Today we have such a diversity, whether it's in technology, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in manufacturing. You know, we have Amazon fulfillment centers opening up in Texas. To my knowledge, we got 4 or 5 now that have opened up that are relocating. Toyota is leaving where they were and coming to Texas. They opened up a plant in San Antonio that generated 6,000 to 7,000 jobs, not counting all the peripheral jobs that they did. They're bringing their headquarters to Plano. The Dallas Cowboys just built a $1 billion facility in Frisco. I mean, you know, it's coming. And it takes every single community to do their part. So as I travel throughout the state, I'm so proud and easy to talk about Texas. No matter where I go, whether I'm in Mexico or I'm in Canada, it's easy. It's funny, I was talking to the Indian Consul General here in Houston, and we started talking about voting. They have 700 million people in India, and they get over a 75% voter turnout. 75% voter turnout with 700 million people. And each section of the country, they have to split up in 4s. Because as I understand it, the way he conveyed to me, they use the same machines, and they're guarded by the military, so they go to Section A, everybody votes on a weekend. A weekend, not early vote 2 weeks, and then election day, a weekend, then they go on to the next one, go on to the next one, go on to the next one. They tabulate the end. After it's all over, that's when they tabulate all the votes. Because they appreciate the democracy that they have. Because they haven't had it very long. They haven't had it very long. So here now we come to us. And we're coming up to an election season that's going to be very, very interesting, to say the least. And that's been part of my tour now, is talking to people, talking to everyone. Doesn't matter what age group, what ethnic background, what you do. Talking to everybody, reaching out to everyone about the changes in the photo ID. That's not my rule. My rule and my law is what I follow. Whatever somebody else generates, whether I like it or don't like it, I don't have an opinion, I have to follow what the legislature does and what the courts do. So, most of y'all, if I had to guess, probably voted in the past with some kind of photo ID. Normally, it's probably a driver's license, or a concealed handgun permit, or a passport. Well, for those of y'all that have been voting using one of those photo IDs, nothing changes. You keep doing the same thing. You go vote with a driver's license, or whatever you've got, one of those 7 approved deals. Well, the court on August the 10th said, well, you got to do something different now. You got to give people that are unable to obtain one of those 7 photo IDs an opportunity to vote with other options. And that's what I'm out, having to go out and educate and inform voters about. So you walk in, you don't have a driver's license, you just don't like to drive, you're scared of cars, you're a mess, you can't drive, you show up because you want to vote. Well, now you have an option. You still have to take something. You have to take something with you that has your name on it. And you show up and you have to sign a declaration, basically stating that you're unable to obtain one of the 7 approved photo IDs, and that there's a reasonable impediment as to why you cannot obtain one, then you sign this declaration under penalty of perjury, and you briefly state why you cannot. It could be you don't have transportation, illness, you're disabled, there's about 6 or 7, and then you have other. And all you have to do really is really simple. You can take a copy or an original of a utility bill. You can take your voter registration card that hardly anybody uses anymore, but those little blue cards you get in the mail every 2 years. I think the color's blue now. You take that. You can take a certified birth certificate. You can take a bank statement, a check, something that has your name. You can take another government document, like, you know, at the end of the year, nobody's old enough to do that yet, but Social Security statement that you get with your benefits, got your name and address, you take that, and then you can vote. You can early vote, or you can vote on election day.
A lot of those things could be obtained by citizenship.
Yes.
That's a problem.
I'm just following the law. I'm just following, you know, and I understand the challenges of it and the frustration, you know, of some folks, you know, but I got to follow what the courts have decided that I have to do, and that's why I've been traveling. You know, as a matter of fact, I'm going to El Paso tonight. I'm going to be lucky tomorrow and tour Fort Bliss. Then I'm back in Austin on Sunday, and then we get going. Then we drive to San Angelo, Odessa, Abilene, Dallas, all next week. And then I go down to the valley for a few days to do some stuff. Then I start over again. So we're going everywhere to try to educate and inform voters about the changes in the photo ID. What's going to happen in the future, I don't know. But that's what the rule and the law is today. And that's what we have to follow. But I tell you, aside from that, people say, do you like being secretary? It's a lot less stressful than being county judge. It really is. My stress is making sure I catch a flight. That is my stress. You know, flying is stressful. It is stressful having to go security, you got to take everything off just about, and you know, it's stressful. And then you know, as a matter of fact, I was in Houston again last year, and I was speaking at a Chamber of Commerce gala. And everything was running late, and I was supposed to speak at 7 o'clock. My flight was at 9:35, the last flight out. So I get there, and no one's there, of course. And so they said, oh, no, you're speaking at 9. And I said, no, I'm not. Speaking, I can't. I got to catch a flight. And so, long story short, I spoke at 8. My staff drags me out. We get to Hobby, and guess what? There's construction. And there's a line. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's, you know, we left with plenty of time. It's about 9:10, and I'm still not at the front.
Wow.
And so we finally get up, maybe about, my flight's leaving at 9:35. I think I finally walk in the front doors like at 9:15. And I'm wearing boots, what I'm wearing now with a bag, and I am literally doing the OJ Rent-A-Bird's car, running down everything. So I get to the security, and luckily they didn't give me a hard time. I said, I gotta go and catch my flight. Here I am with my ID. Okay, fine, go. And I'm literally running down. Of course, when you want to go to the valley, it's always the last gauge at the like 52, and I'm over here at 10, and they're like, oh God. So start to literally running, and I'm about to die, and I'm literally dying. So I finally get in. There's nobody there. And there's one guy there who said, is it okay? I'd like to go in. So I go in, and I'm by myself. I mean, this back plane. I sit down, and I'm literally, my heart's about to come out of my body. You've had those where you just can't stop. It's just pumping like crazy. And this lady next to me decides she wants to talk. Right? And I looked, and I said, ma'am, I really can't talk right now. I'm about to die right now. I'm about to die right now. Okay, fine. So about 3 minutes later, I'm ready to go. 9:35 pounds, the plane ain't moving. Over the intercom, they say, I'm sorry, we're going to be delayed 15, 20 minutes because we're waiting for some connecting passengers, and I'm going to die for nothing. That's stressful. That is stressful. But aside from that, I will tell you that it's been a great job. I like it. I like what I do. I don't like the travel part. But you know, had I not been secretary, I wouldn't have met you all. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have gotten a free ultra, you know? I'm cheap, Dave. I just want to, and I'm done. And that's what I tell folks when they ask me, why'd you get into politics? Well, I don't know why I got into it, but the best thing out of it is you get to meet people that I wouldn't have never met. I would have never met you or been here to speak. I wouldn't have done that. So that is the one plus side about doing this kind of work, you know. And it's great you get to meet new people. And I'm gonna tell you something what I said at the luncheon today, and I'll say this in closing because it's important. There's two things I want to say. One of them, very frequently I get asked about the power, the proliferation, the growth of the Hispanic population. And I make economists, so I can say this. And Anglo says this, I'm going to string them up, but I can say this. It's meaningless. It's meaningless how fast any particular group is growing, whether it's Asian American or African American or Hispanic American or Latino, whatever the flavor you want to call it, doesn't matter. It's meaningless if all these folks are not exercising their right, if they're registered and they're U.S. citizens and they're registered to vote, if they're not voting. It's meaningless. So I tell that to groups. I tell that to everyone. I said, yeah, well, what's the big deal? If Hispanics or Asians, they're not voting. What does it matter how fast that particular segment of the population is growing? So when I hear politicians ask me, what do we have to do to reach out to the Hispanic population or the Asian Americans or the African Americans? You know what? You reach out to everyone, number one. You reach out to everyone. And you try to instill with young, for those of you all that are going to get out to vote, if you have children, you take them with you. You take them with you so they can experience that voting ethic at an early age. Take them if they're 5 years old or teenagers or whatever. Take them with you because I have a belief that if these young kids never see their parents going out to vote, they're going to grow up in a lack of voting ethic. They're not going to believe it's a big deal. They never saw their parents go. So why? So I encourage people to take their children with them. Begin that voting ethic at an early age. At an early age, start with that. But I think that the other issue is that they got to be informed voters. Not just pull that straight ticket, lever ticket, or whatever. You have to inform voters. Be informed. Educate yourselves. Now for the last, I'm going to ask you two things, but I'm going to make a comment about one because I've heard this more often than not. Is the disappointment that there is amongst voters about the top of the ticket people running for president. Either people don't know what to do because they're both great people, or they don't believe that either one of them is really, really great. So consequently, what I'm hearing is, well, we're just not going to go vote. We don't like the top of the ticket. We're not going to go vote. But there's so many good down ballot races that are important, especially here in Houston, Texas. Take advantage and pay attention to those down ballot candidates. You got some state rep races here. You have sheriff's race, constables, JPs, district judges, Congress. These are down ballot that if you don't go out to vote because you're angry at the top of the ticket, whatever, then there's some well-deserving people down ballot that deserve your attention and deserve your vote. So now for the question of the day, and I'm going to ask you this. Are you proud of Houston, Texas?
Yeah.
Houston is the economic juggernaut of this state. Texas is the economic juggernaut of this nation.
Yes.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Every state wants to emulate what Texas is. Every state. They want to do things the way Texas did. No such thing as a Texas miracle. This was deliberate. This was planned action as to what we needed to do. So now, if you're proud of Houston, Texas, I don't need answers for this, but I want you to think about it. If you ever get asked by somebody coming out, are you proud of Houston? Are you proud of Petroleum? Are you proud of Sugar Land? Are you proud, of Kimberly? Are you proud of the Woodlands? Are you proud? Yeah, the answer is yeah. Then what if they ask you why?
Can you tell me why you're proud of this community? Give me 3 to 5 reasons of why you're proud of your hometown. Those are questions that I pose everywhere I go. And most of the time I get like a blank stare because no one's ever thought about it. Well, you think about it. Because there's a lot to be proud of in this community. You just have to be able to vocalize it, verbalize it, and tell people. With that, I want to thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Secretary, I think it was maybe so full.
Cannot hear you.
Yes, you can check the microphone.
Turn it on.
I should have done that.
We need Mr. Secretary because otherwise it will not work. Okay. I think it was a very thoughtful talk. I did personally relate to your airport story very much. And I'm not going to speak about it because it would be too long. And a lot of people tell me I speak too long. But it did relate to me very much. The only difference was it was a flight to Hawaii just after September 11. I'm gonna give you a few gifts as we always do here. So I asked you and you told me that you like French wine, so that's what you're gonna get. I don't know about that. So this is a good wine. This is basically drunk during the summer in France, but I'm sure it will do during the autumn in Austin. Okay. And the other gift I always give is. Because basically I think it's right to give gifts, okay? But the wife or the girlfriend, and in your case, I hope it's going to be your wife.
He's not French.
He's going to get some French perfume, okay? Okay? So thank you so much again. I mean, it's really... Very briefly, Carl, can you just come and speak about the next meeting or conference or anyway, just introduce a little bit what we're going to do next month. It's possible some people might be interested.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much. Good to have you here. I'm originally from Chicago, and when he was talking about voter ID laws, I can tell you that in Chicago we have one rule: vote early, vote often. That's how it works. We don't really care about IDs that much. We just want to make sure that we have at least one name. It doesn't have to be your name. It can be somebody deceased, somebody in your family. You can use it, not a problem. But I want to tell everybody, next month we're going to have an oil price outlook. It's going to be a lot of people talking about a lot of great things about oil prices going forward. We'll have people from IHS, from S&P, from Wood Mackenzie, and also myself. Now, while we're on the subject here about politics, I remember he said, you know, we wasn't going to talk too much politics. But you bear with me a quick story. I was in London in February at London Business School. I was talking about oil price forecasts back then. I go, I speak with some other speakers, and after the conference is over, we have a whole bunch of people all mulling around wanting to talk about oil. I had a line about 5 or 6 people. I was very excited. I thought, oh, they're going to ask me about what do you really think about prices of oil and gas? What do you think about North America shale? What do you think about Texas? All these people gathered around me. They all huddled up, and I was so excited. And they were like, Carl, yeah? What about Trump? What? I'm not a political strategist. I'm an oil guy. What's going on in America? I don't know. It's so hard. But the odd thing, the strange thing is that they had a point. And so when we talk about oil and then we talk about economics, when we'll talk about that next month, we'll address a lot of these things. There is a lot going on, and as Mr. Secretary said, it's going to be very interesting. And going forward, we'll see a lot of interesting things going on. So hopefully we'll all address those next month. I hope everybody here will show up next month. I hope you'll tell your colleagues, your friends, and your families, and your voting friends who may not be related to you, who can vote in Chicago. But please do come next month. And we thank you so much for coming tonight. And Mr. Secretary, again, thank you. We'll see everybody again next month.
Very briefly, okay? I would like to thank Seva because he's been instrumental in having that many people tonight. So I just wanted to give him the same treatment as Mr. Secretary, okay? Meaning a bottle of wine for himself is Russian, okay? And some perfume because he needs to find a girlfriend.